You're not trading time for money, you're trading value. Can you explain what that means in the real world for people?
Absolutely. So when you work for someone else, you are a cog in the wheel, and you only get paid for the hours that you work, but you only get what you get paid. That's it. But when you have your own business, you are no longer a cog in the wheel. You are the entire wheel, and you get to determine where your energies go and what your value is. And if you can't find your value where you are, then you're in the wrong room.
How do you pick your clients?
What I found were that business owners did not want AI. They don't want to change because we don't like to change. Our brains keep us from changing, right? That's their thing, keep us safe. And they don't think they need to change because the old way is still working. And what I found, and I love that this became my calling, was I found that I need my clients to be special needs families or special needs business owners, because then they understand that my family has to come first. And when I put that behind what I want to do, and I was like, this is it for all those neurodivergent business owners that are struggling. They can't keep the W-2 job, but they can't keep their business going either. This is the answer.
Welcome to Compassiviste Dialogues. I'm your host, Ali Horiat. My goal in this program is to educate our audience about various global issues and how we can help. My guest today is Carley Martha. Carley's LinkedIn profile says, "We help businesses grow with personalized mentoring and AI-assisted automations." But as you all know, I'm not much interested in that, and that's not why I'm speaking with Carley today at all. Carley's also a certified public accountant. She is a certified fraud examiner and a CFO. She's also a business valuation analyst with over 25 years of professional experience in the finance world and a business owner at Success Positive. A lot of that relates to my old life, so I understand exactly what you do. And what she and her team do in the services they provide is actually not the pioneering or extraordinary part that I want to talk about. There's a lot of people offering services in I'll just call it the tech world. But when I found out why Carley does what she does, it changed everything from this file landing on my desk. And I said, we need to speak to Carley. Based out of Amherst, New York, in the very beautiful scenic region of Niagara Falls, Carley is as close as we can get to angels amongst us on earth. And you're all going to find out why. So, Carley, without more intro than that, welcome to Compassiviste Dialogues.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. It's an honor to be here. And I got to tell you, all of that stuff isn't even the fun stuff about my life.
Exactly. Which is why,
Yes.
we put all of that in the intro so we can get rid of it, so we can get into the fun stuff. So now, let me start with this for the audience. Can you give me a quick rundown of what you do as a service and what you provide, in terms of the work, but don't give away why you do it just yet.
So we help business owners by giving them the support and the business structure that they really need to be successful. And automation takes care a lot of the follow-up and being consistent, because that entrepreneurial pendulum swing that everybody seems to be on and thinks that that's normal. What that really is just a business owner working on the business or working in the business. They haven't leveraged the business yet. They don't have consistent marketing. And that's why they go through those periods of feast and famine. That's, part of the reason why we're here.
Perfect. And now let's get to know you a little bit. Tell me about your childhood and experiences that formed you, and those that essentially gave you the tools for success socially and economically. I mean, yes, you did the schooling, I did the schooling. It opened certain doors for us. We were able to enter into fields that we did. But aside from that, though, there's specific experiences, moments, education that comes outside of a certification or a university degree that develops us and makes us who we are. So how would you relate to that?
Absolutely. I definitely describe myself as being resilient, right? And having a tough childhood would do that. I went into foster care at a young age, and I became an emancipated minor at 17. I actually had my first apartment at 16. I was the coolest kid in high school.
I would imagine so.
I went from high school. Being an emancipated minor meant that I qualified now for grants to go to college. And I was actually able to get my full degree, my CPA, with only spending $9,000 in student loans. That was amazing and very blessed because of it. And while I was in my college years, I met and married an Army man and had two special needs children. My son is autistic, and when he was very little, he went through a headbutting stage, which, that could be really bad. And I wound up with 23 concussions, traumatic brain injuries that definitely began to affect my life. And fortunately, now they have ways to treat and restore brain damage that way, and that's something that we are definitely pursuing for me. But I continue to raise these children with this untreated brain damage, and really struggled to keep a W-2 job. I don't know if you know this, but when you have traumatic brain injuries, it creates personality changes. It really has, people have a lot of emotional disorders because of it, right? And Dr. Daniel Amen, who is the leading healer in this area, he has come out and said that mental health issues are the cause or are caused by literally brain damage, because there are spikes and grooves inside our skulls. And nobody talks about this. And we go and we play football, or we fall down and we don't think about it, and because of that, our life changes. And because, as being a foster child and losing my family, I had undiagnosed borderline personality disorder that I was now also combating with the brain damage. And I found, like many disabled or differently abled business owners, I found that I couldn't keep a W-2 job, that I was constantly struggling with my own issues, with my children's issues, with, today, am I going to go to work or am I going to the doctor? And my employers really gave me a lot of hard times. Like, okay, you were gone, but your work still needs to be done. And I really resented my employers, and they let me go. And I realized that, 20 some years later, I'm still in the same position. When my family goes into crisis, I'm still in the same position where I'm choosing going to work for somebody else, making them rich, or am I going to take care of my family? And I had tried to start a business back when my kids were little, obviously a bookkeeping business. And I didn't know anything about marketing or promotion. And I wasn't being able to stay consistent because of all the other issues that were going on. And my business closed way before I caught any traction. We just ran out of money, right? And so I always figured that I couldn't be a successful business owner. And then I found ChatGPT and started to understand the world of AI. And I am not a coder or a programmer. I am simply a power user. But because of the way my brain processes things, I'm able to make connections that other people don't normally see. And so I've put together a platform of some really great AI tools that I knew would make it possible for me to be successful, for me to be consistent, and for me to be able to focus finally on all the big things, the things that make my company unique and able to scale that way. And it's all thanks to this advanced technology. And when I saw it and I put it into place and I saw what it was doing for me, I said, this is it. This is what other business owners need. And what I found were that business owners did not want AI. They don't want to change because we don't like to change. Our brains keep us from changing, right? That's their thing, keep us safe. And so while they were like, okay, technology, it's coming, it'll be here, they don't understand how to apply it. And they don't think they need to change because the old way is still working. And what I found, and I love that this became my calling, was I found that I need my clients to be special needs families or special needs business owners, because then they understand that my family has to come first. And when I put that behind what I want to do, and I was like, this is it for all those neurodivergent business owners that are struggling. They can't keep the W-2 job, but they can't keep their business going either. This is the answer. This is the answer. And I just want to make sure that people understand that we have the technology now to make running your business a lot easier, and it's freely available.
That is exactly why I wanted you to say all of what you just said, because on the on the compassion side, I worked, as you know, in Canada, I worked in what Americans would imagine Wall Street to be, and I was managing my own fund, and I was doing really well. And you're right, I was paying staff a lot of money. I mean, I was paying them a lot more than you would get paid for that. Even a receptionist at our office was getting paid almost three times what a receptionist would get paid at, say, a law office, right? But the reason was it was such a hectic environment, working, trading and all those things, that everybody had to be available and acceptable of the edge and the craziness that was going on. So you paid more to buy that, right? You bought their freedom, so to speak. And when you're so money driven and profit driven, you don't care about people. You start seeing them as what they perform. So you're seeing people as AI before AI was born. You had no emotions for them. You're like, do the task, do the task, do the task, right? I don't care you're hungry, do the task, right? Whereas today, AI doesn't tell you I'm hungry. It just does the task the way you want it to. Whereas we were treating humans as machines back then. And so when you come out and you share your experience of being treated that way, it just reminds me of, you could have been employed, at my firm, and I probably would have let you go, or not cared as much. I maybe would have had a soft spot and said, "Oh, I feel so bad," yada yada. But at the end of the day, okay, once, twice, three times, but I can't afford this ever so often, so I have to let her go. And if I was very philanthropic, I may have given you a certain amount of money or something like that to help you, but that would have been it. And it's not a solution, so to speak. What you're doing is actually a solution. What you're doing is you're telling people, no, you don't need to quit your job. You don't need to, ruin your life. Everything doesn't need to go, out the window because, for example, you have an autistic child, or, any kind of disability that hinders in today's world. And I love that you've taken this upon yourself, because not just in the US, but globally, we're not equipped to manage these challenges. I don't find any government or any global corporation that says, okay, we have these programs in place to kind of deal with these things. I find more and more when I speak with people who say, and this has happened so many times that I'm starting to connect the dots, where people have mental health and neurodivergent issues, and just a scope of disabilities that the governments have not helped or dealt with. They're normally on it for themselves, so they start their own businesses, because that's you being on your for yourself, so to speak, as opposed to working somewhere. And today the wheelchair issue is resolved. So if you're in a wheelchair, you can still work at any company, because there's access everywhere, almost, not everywhere, but almost everywhere. So it's not really hindering you. You can go to university, you can go to your office job, or whatever it may be. But most of the other issues are not cared for in that way. And I think the reason being, it's easy to build a ramp, but it's not easy to listen to the doctors and to put time and effort and care and compassion into what really needs to be done. So people don't do that part. Now, I like how you've taken on AI in the sense of its positive impact on us. And I really, really try to push that on people, because I'll tell you this, I'm tech illiterate when it comes to technology. It's so hard for me to understand coding and computers and things like that, because when I went to school, it was an age where you could still hand in your essay by writing it out. Like, you wrote it out, and if it was really bad draft, you rewrote it, copied it on a clean version, and handed it in, stapled the papers and handed them in, right? And that was your essay, and you put your student number on there and whatnot. Today, I mean, it's a different world. So I grew up in that world, so to speak. I was at the end of that world, unfortunately. And but today, everything we do at Compassiviste is tech driven. And it's not because Ali is a tech guru. No, it's because Ali appreciates the tech. I appreciate what the tech can do for us. And the team around me is all a bunch of younger, enthusiastic people who understand the tech very easily and they take it on very quickly. And like you said, these automations, they come and like, Ali, we need to use this, and the blah 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 blah, and then I'm just not following. But then I'm like, wow, in 10 seconds everything we wanted just happened, and I'm like, yeah, we need to use, I don't understand it, but we need to use that. That's how much I care for it. And so you're saying the same thing here. You're kind of saying, first of all, it's important to educate ourselves on AI and how to use technology, technological breakthrough in ways that support our lives and allow us the free time to attend to our families and all the excess time we need to give our families. So why, the question then becomes to kind of allow people to appreciate what you just said and to allow people to change. Yes, you're right. Our brains are designed in a way to say, no, change is bad. You're good the way you are. Just keep it the way it is. But we find ourselves at the tail end of change, always adapting. So there was a time where, Apple came onto the scene, and I was very happy still on my Nokia cell phone because it did what I needed it to do, and I couldn't understand Apple. But then eventually I had to switch to Apple because, that was the way of the world after that. And so I was at the tail end of it. But had I been at the forefront, it would have made a lot of difference throughout those years. So my question to you is, first two-part question, why do you feel people are being so cautious about AI? Is it mostly the ignorance, or what is it? And second of all, if they're willing to start thinking, especially families with special needs, they have to start listening to this and saying, okay, we need to open our minds to this. What do you think is the direction that they should start looking into to be able to open their world, to come to Carley and say, Carley, help me?
So I think the reason why they are hesitant is because, like you, people think that technology is hard, right? It always has been. When I first got out of college, I worked as a software developer. So I totally understand that people are intimidated by it. But the entire point of creating ChatGPT was to give us a tool where you did not have to be tech savvy. If you log in and you speak to ChatGPT like a really good intern, then you will get good results. You can, learn how to craft a prompt that will tell ChatGPT to figure out how to craft the perfect prompt. So you don't have to know how to use the tech. You just have to know what the shortcuts are. And there's plenty of them on the internet. In fact, we're actually doing a Carley ChatGPT challenge right now to really help people learn how to use ChatGPT, especially how to personalize it for their business so they can really get just some good strategies out of it so they can start moving that needle and start really improving. So that is the direction that they need to go. If they don't think that they can make a difference in their company using technology, even just asking it general questions, like, what's the difference between companies in my industry that are making $1 million and companies in my industry that are making $100,000? What are they still struggling with that the $1 million ones know? How do we bring this back into perspective? And just having another voice in the room is awesome. ChatGPT does make mistakes. It can try to hallucinate details about things. But on general concepts, just having someone to bounce ideas off of at 2:00 in the morning is an amazing resource.
I do that actually. I do that. The same way I use Google search when I want to write an article or when I want to get some stats out there. I sometimes go to Google and I'm like, I'm doing this piece about, say, poverty. Give me some stats about blah, blah, blah. And back in the day, I'd literally have to make a day out of it, right? I mean, you'd have to go to the library, you'd have to go through the catalog, find books by authors or, journals that would have this information in, because there's no web to print it on, and physically take them to the photocopier, print copies of the pages that you want to reference, and then include that in your essay. Your research would be a day of the writing. Like one day is reserved for that. Whereas today, within 2 minutes, I can do all that research because Google exists. Now, you're cutting Google's time by so much more with ChatGPT because it provides you that service that Google does, but it filters through everything to give you the results as well. So the half of the time that you're opening all these tabs to read through and see which ones you want to take from and use and what information you want to learn, it's giving it to you in one brief. And then you just save that brief, and then you keep going back to it and say, okay, here's the statistics for that, here's the example for this, here's that, and now I can use these for my book, or I could use these for my article, or whatever it is. I fully appreciate what you're saying. Now, the only problem for me is here, and I think a lot of people go through this. That's easy, but how do you use the systems or the services that become bespoke, and how do you, align yourself with those that essentially matter for your corporation? So at Compassiviste right now, we have multiple arms of art ventures and food and all these other things, and a nonprofit and everything that we're doing. How do we bring in AI to function for us? I personally feel that had it not been for me having a tech team involved, it would be impossible, because myself could not have developed all of these things. Now, that's where you come in. You kind of facilitate that, right? For people. I mean, you bring in a unique blend of real world insight, because you go through this yourself. Like you said, you have children with special needs, and so you go through this yourself. But then you're also bringing these innovative strategies of the new world with AI in it and ChatGPT, and you're changing people's lives because you see those people as yourself. It's very different for me to go out there and say, hey, whoever has special needs, all special needs families who are entrepreneurs, please come to Compassiviste and let us help you. Well, I won't know how to help you, because I don't know what it means to have, because I've never had it in my life. I've never, if I've never had, or if anybody doesn't even have a child to start with, how are they going to understand what it's like to do that? But you understand that. And so I feel like, you're the go-to person here. And I don't know how you haven't exploded across the United States, because you should, like every household or every institution or foundation that works with families with special needs should have you right up there, in their system, to say, go to Carley to make your life easier, because what you're bringing is truly, truly allowing people time. So it's as if you're kind of giving them income, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are an income producing asset. And we joke that this platform we've created is a time machine. And we're working on getting across the US. I'm actually in discussions with several other financial professionals about franchising this, or at least making this available to
Yes.
businesses everywhere, so that
Yeah.
we can really help support them.
Because on the on my old VC head on, I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, she's giving people money. Like, that's what she's doing. She's essentially a part of the income of what people can gain. So if I was going to invest in this model, it would be great, because I could, as a VC, I could literally come in there and grab a portion of everybody's model, because I put the money in to develop this franchise globally, right? And that's what a lot of people will do. On the flip side, on the human side of things, I look at it and I say, how do we bring this to the world? Because it helps so many people, it advances so many lives, and it reduces a lot of anxiety, stress, emotional aspects, and a lot of problems that people face that we may not recognize. I mean, and I know this for a fact, because I've been involved in situations where I've known people who have even separated, unfortunately, not because there was a reason to separate, but because the tension was getting so much with the children and the special needs, that they just couldn't bear. And so the problems grew so much that they ended up separating. And they wouldn't have if they had resources that would help, right? And you're here offering this resource. So your business, Success Positive, and I love the name,
Thank you.
is, in my eyes, a change maker, because it expands access to business ownership, especially for special needs families. You're balancing the playing field in so many ways. This is like, the person who builds a ramp to the school's entrance, and suddenly all the children in wheelchairs can attend, right? Before that, they couldn't. There was a time, I wasn't born during that time, there was a time, if you had a child in a wheelchair, you didn't send them to school anymore, because that was the barrier, right? The ramp was the barrier. The effort is not impossibly difficult to commit to, but the impact that you're bringing is really incalculable for me, because how do you put price on your time and your family and all those, you just can't, these priceless moments, right? So you're innovative use of AI and commitment to empower families, and especially special needs families, inspired me to embrace new possibilities in business and in life, and just growth of people. And you're doing this work, this creative work, so to speak, more than the accounting side of it. I mean, you come from an accounting background, but this is no accounting. I mean, this is all creative work that you're doing in supporting entrepreneurs. So I wouldn't look at you and say, oh, Carley's my accountant, or Carley's helping me support accounting principles. It's not. Carley's changing my life. Carley is bringing in a new creative way for me to look at things. So she's supporting my entrepreneurship from a creative perspective of, this is how you need to align yourself, rather than detracting from, family and personal well-being and all those things. And it's so aligned to Compassiviste values, So in my sense, it's also very kind of spiritually evolving for people, because you're bringing in this power of a collective too. When you talk about franchising and all these other things, it's kind of a force to say, hey, this exists. There are X amount of million families in the United States that require this service. It's a niche market from a business perspective, but it's also a social space that we need to cater to, that we haven't, right? We've never looked into, because where is there competition right now? No. I mean, I see, if I wanted to file my taxes, I could say H&R is a competition, Carley. Why should I come to you? Right? Because they are a competition. I could go there. Why should I come to you? But when it comes to this specific issue, I can't say, well, there are these 5 other centers and 2 of them are federally subsidized that support entrepreneurial assets to creative bespoke entrepreneurial assets to special families and special needs families. And so you have competition. You don't. It's unique. It's really something amazing. So explain to me how you saw this, how you understood this. I mean, I know it started from you. I know it started from your own personal life experiences, but how did you envision, and how are you going about growing this? Because I want the right people listening to this to say, I see the vision, I understand what's going on. After the show, I want to send Carley an email. So pitch.
So I want to tell you that this is a small part of what I do for my clients. I am a financial professional. I'm a financial expert. I'm a fraud expert. I'm a business expert. The automation is necessity, because what I found was that when I took on a mentoring client, the first things that I was telling them was automate your marketing. This is just no-brainer stuff, right? And so what I found was, since this is the first step, this is something I needed to provide for them. I couldn't just tell them, you need to automate your workflow. You're wasting, there was one client we automated. They saved 6 hours a day. They were able to reduce their staff by 1 and reassign another staff to take on additional duties, because we automated one simple thing, right? So I understood that especially for special needs families, they were not going to have the time to learn a new skill, to learn new technology, but they really needed the benefit of it, right? So I figured out that we could do it easily, and that it was something that I could easily train other people to do for us. And so that just made everything change, because now I have these businesses that I desperately want to serve, and I'm going to help them grow enough so that I can start giving them the financial guidance that they really need, so that we can take these families from struggling to pay bills, having to be on the welfare system, like I was as well, just trying to make ends meet. Now we have a vehicle that will allow them to work as many hours as they want to, and to make as much money as they need to. We're not trading time for money anymore. We're trading value for money, and this gives them the way to do that.
You're right. You're not trading time for money. You're trading value. That's a sentence I need to learn. Can you expand a little on that? Can you explain what that means in the real world for people? Because I want people to understand what the difference between trading time for money and trading value for money is really.
Absolutely. So when you work for someone else, you are a cog in the wheel, and you only get paid for the hours that you work, but you only get what you get paid. That's it. But when you have your own business, right, You are no longer a cog in the wheel. You are the entire wheel, and you get to determine where your energies go and what your value is. And if you can't find your value where you are, then you're in the wrong room.
And you know something? The early essence of the idea of capitalism was exactly what you said. When you read Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations, he specifically says that the purpose of capitalism is to allow people to innovate and to compete and to come up with the best that they can for themselves so that that can benefit the entire whole, right? When you're working for yourself and you're doing what you're doing right now, it's bringing you income, it's giving you value, but it's also making the whole better because now if you have 5 people that you're helping with special needs, that's 5 people that are going to be less, I guess, suffering, reducing their suffering, right, in the community. And if there's 10 people in the community with special needs that are going through a lot of problems with work and other things that they can't handle, you just cut that number in half in your community. You see what I mean? So that's what capitalism was about. And you're bringing that back to life.
And the ripple effect that we're having is going to be amazing. The butterfly wings that start a tsunami, this is it. Because for every business that we are helping, right? Because most businesses have a 50% failure rate within the first 5 years.
Yes.
So if we get these businesses either at startup or while they're struggling, or we get them in their growth process, we can help them. We can move the needle. So we can actually change that to be maybe 80% or 90%, right? And if we do that, that's going to have not just an impact on our local economy and our community as we create more and more employers, but it's also going to have a significant impact on the business owners personally, because instead of their business going out of business, because the business doesn't just go away when we shut down, right? The business owner is left usually with a ton of debt, from trying to get the business starting and failing. It's very expensive. And so instead of them having to go into bankruptcy and that bringing down our economy even more, these people are now contributing and creating a stronger local economy.
Right. And that's it, right? The whole is benefiting because people forget, when you don't have the financial or economic understanding of bankruptcy, you forget that not only does it impact the person who's the business owner socially and on a personal mental level, it also deteriorates their hopes for several years because of credit issues and whatnot, and that impacts the economy because they get into a lot harder problems as well, because now to finance a car you're going through different structures than you would a bank, for example. The interest rates are different, like everything's 10 times more expensive all of a sudden because you made the mistake and you went bankrupt.
But if you have a business, you can get business loans for significantly less than consumer credit rates.
Exactly.
So another reason to have a business.
Yeah. And when you do that successfully and you don't go bankrupt because you have these modules that help you succeed and reduce that rate, you're not only saving that individual from all of that headache personally and from a business perspective or from an economic perspective, but you're also helping the entire country because less default obviously is going to contribute to growth, and that growth is going to contribute to less deficit, which will contribute to lower inflation, which will contribute to more stability, which will also contribute to local economies becoming stronger and less dependent on the corporate powers. So there used to be a time when a Walmart comes to a place exactly like Amherst, there would be businesses going out of business. There would be people walking out because Walmart Supercenter is here and it's over, right? And I've seen those happen in many different, especially smaller communities. Whereas when you empower them to understand how to niche market themselves versus somebody like Walmart, then they're not going out of business. People still come there for specific things that they're not finding at Walmart, for example. So there's a lot of ways that the technology can help you kind of navigate through that, right? Because if you went and tried to do this physically and manually at Walmart and see where you can kind of compete and where the prices and what products, it's going to take you months. You probably don't even have the time or the skill set to do that. To hire someone is way too expensive for something like that. But if you automated, AI, boom, done correctly and ready to go. So It's amazing. Now, after speaking, I was waiting to speak with you first, and then to kind of come to this conclusion during our conversation. I really appreciate what you're doing, and I want to ask you a question that refers to you, not on the consumer side, not on the client side. How do you pick your clients, and the clients you want to work with? Because this is very important for me to make my decisions about how I interact with Success Positive. Because some people say, I don't care what my employer is in. I have no ethical standards. I just provide the service. Whether you are, I don't know, doing something immoral, an immoral business or something environmentally unhealthy or whatever, I'll provide the service because that's what I do. I have a fee and I provide the service. Some other people come and say, no, I don't work with these industries, or I don't do this, or I don't do that because I have certain ethics that I uphold in my business. So what are your terms and conditions for when clients show up to you? Because I could show up and say, hey, I'm starting this, business, and it's really bad for the environment, or it's really dangerous for children if they fall upon my site, but it's going to make a lot of money. And you're like, yeah, let's do it.
So I don't even have paper business cards. I have bamboo and digital business cards. If that tells you where I am on the granola hippie scale. So I tend to attract people who are also in the same vibe as I am, because my granola vibe puts off people that are just money focused, right? So the universe wants this business to happen. It wants me to bring this to special needs families, and I am honored to be the vessel of change, right? So I am fortunate that the universe brings me the right people and that my vibe resonates. So that is how I choose my people, because if we don't have a good vibe together, then how can we work together? Because how can I advise you if you aren't my friend?
Right. And that really goes down to realigning ourselves and kind of, bringing ourselves back to this place where we understand our gut feeling versus looking at a paper and assessing things from an economic perspective, which is beautiful. And I agree with that 100%. I do that myself all the time. I need to feel comfortable with a person before working with a person versus I need to know how much we're going to make together. I don't care about that. I need to know that we're doing something good together. And I really appreciate what you said about, being honored to be where you are by the universe, because to a lot of people listening here or watching, I want them to know they may be suffering right now, but if they can find the purpose in what they're doing and what they can do, that suffering changes into an intention of growth and learning from it. And when you said that sentence, it came across to me as you appreciate all of the brain injuries right now in where you are today, because you know that those all happened to allow you to make a difference in the world. And to make that difference in the world, different people went through different stages of, issues that they had to overcome. From a religious perspective of, the idea of Jesus on a cross, all the way to Martin Luther King being killed, for the purpose. These are people who accepted their suffering and were happy to give the yield of what the universe put on their shoulders and said, here's your assignment in this lifetime, Carley. This is what you're ready for now. And the beautiful part of it is you've been blessed with that, because had you not been blessed with that, you probably would have been an accountant somewhere, right? But you're blessed with that. That is why you're sitting here able to bring that momentum to people. So that's why when I started, I said, you're the closest thing to angels on earth. It wasn't just me bigging you up, like, or saying a nice, cute intro or something. I really meant it, because I really studied what you do. And I realized that you've gone through something that was your test phase in your education phase. You went through the university of life in that sense, so that you have the degree to understand special needs, so that you have the tools to do what you're doing today. And now that you're doing it successfully and impacting people, then you have risen to that level of the purpose that you provide in the lifetime. And so that's why I call you an angel, not because I want you to like me. So
Thank you.
it's more meaningful. My use of that word was more meaningful than just that. And so I'm going to do two things here. One is on our website, on Compassiviste website, at the top, there's this tab. It's called gratitude. And basically what it does is we list people that we know, that we trust, that we have worked with, or that are friends of ours. And, you fill out a form essentially, and we put your information there, and people can find you going through our directory for services that they need within our community. So they can reach out to you and be like, oh, you do this, okay, I'm gonna reach out to you. And obviously we're gonna boost you here on Compassiviste Dialogues and across Compassiviste. But the other thing I want to do, which will go beyond this, but I want to say this here so the listeners will look forward to it. I'm a very realistic person. I have my optimism, and I am a little too ambitious and visionary in what I'm trying to do globally, but I do have realistic understandings of certain things. Not every family who's able to start a business or struggling in their business is going to be able to afford Carley Martha's involvement in their business. So, how do you deal with that? First of all, how do you deal with a client who comes and says, Carley, this is my situation. This is what I'm struggling with. This is my family. These are the needs we have. And I do have a business, for example, I do this, and but I need automation. I need help. Please help me, but I don't have money. What do you do at that point?
So I thought about that. And what we do is we actually have our own lead generation services
Mhm.
that we provide to clients. So when we bring them on board, we get them set up with some basic marketing automation to try to start growing their business through different revenue angles, and that will actually pay for itself. It's
Okay.
the best on ramp that I could possibly provide is by helping them actually use leads for free to grow their business, and it obviously demonstrates our ability. So we invoice them when we get them live, and then they have 30 days to use the technology to pay us.
Okay. So basically, there's no reason where someone can come to you, and there's no reason for somebody to avoid coming to you because, oh, it may be too expensive, or I don't have the money, or they should get in touch with you and say, hey, I'm here because I need help. And you're going to run them through that help. And if they sign up for it, then, they process it. And then when they have money, they come back and say, great, thank you for everything you've done. And here's your share of the pot, basically. So,
Yeah.
and you're right, that speaks 100% to your trust in your work and your ability to showcase your work, because I notice a lot of people who are fearless about what they can do will bill you, whereas a lot of people who don't trust what they do themselves will ask for the unrefundable money up front, non-refundable money up front, and they'll say, I need $8,000 to provide you with this service. You give them the $8,000, the service crashes. And then they're like, well, these are the reasons why it didn't work. And for another 3,000, I can fix those. But by then you've lost trust and you've moved on and you've lost the money. Whereas the people who believe in what they do will say, it's going to cost $9,000, but this is, a payment plan for that because we know you're going to hit those milestones. So it's great that you're doing that. I also want to collaborate with you from a nonprofit perspective, from a nonprofit arm of what we do, because we are rolling out an education program. And the education program is essentially my idea of a university that I never got to go to because I've done a lot of schooling, but I never learned anything that prepared me for life. It prepared me for the skill sets of what I wanted, what I was doing to earn money. And so I decided to, bring some people together, and these are some professors and some just people in the very successful people in their industries who are willing to offer these courses and allow people to receive that education, a relationship education, environmental education, finance and economics, because it's a huge part of what we don't understand on a day-to-day basis, but we deal with every day. Nobody's given the education in high school or any schooling about taxes unless they actually go to become an accountant, right? I mean, even I got my MBA. I didn't learn nothing about accounting in the MBA course because I did it in marketing. So, marketing MBA doesn't really teach you balance sheets and income statements and stuff like that. You learn it in your corporate life as you go along. So it's very niche market educations, but I think those are important things for people to know how to set their lives to the most advantageous way that they can for themselves and their communities and the nation. And so we're providing that. What I'm going to do is we're going to insert you and your services into our nonprofit to essentially raise funds that can help with expanding the program that you're doing, like you said, the franchising, and also allocating this program to spaces where you can have online seminars that attract people who are like-minded to be able to benefit from these, because these cost money and people don't realize they cost money. And but when you provide them to people for free, if you can come up with the money and provide them to people for free, people have this kind of, it's like church. When you go to church, they don't ask you for money walking in the door. They never say it costs $5 to listen to this preacher. You listen to the preacher, you're moved to give $5 after you've heard what you've heard and you believe in what you've heard or whatnot. And I take that religious model. I don't subscribe to it, but I take that religious model and I want to use it in a way that it can be advantageous. So in this sense, you are providing this service to people. And a lot of people would be fearful of entering that room because of finances, where they are economically, what ideas they may have, and how they can start a business and all those things. But I think when we have seminars and when we have ways that we can educate people, and the funding is there to allow this to happen, we're halfway there. And then the other half will be those people feeling powered enough that they will come and say, I'm willing to take that chance. I'm willing to give my family that time and to enter this world and to have a better future. And for us to be happy, seeing people happier. So we're going to contribute and we're going to partner with you so that we can do that, which, when you are ready, we want you to essentially come and say, this is how I imagine this, and this is what funding we will need. And we'll raise that funding for you, and we'll go to bat, right? We'll go to bat to allow that program to actually happen.
I appreciate that, because we looked at how much it would cost a franchise to be able to get this out. And I was like, this is not in the budget right now. But it's something that needs to happen. They think it's going to cost about $10,000 for all the legal paperwork and everything.
And then you can franchise.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll tell you right now, we'll cover that.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll cover that.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will stay in touch and we will raise the funding for that. And over a couple of months, we will get that going and we'll cover it. And then we'll look forward to how we can franchise it, because it upsets me when people say it's not in the budget and then they say a number that you look on social media and people are showing off their shopping haul that was $50,000 and everybody's mesmerized by this and they're liking it and all of that stuff. And then you see somebody trying to change people's lives that are already struggling with so much and going through so much suffering and so much issues that we can't even understand unless we're in that position. And then they're sitting there saying, I could make a difference in the entire world for $10,000, and people just shun that and continue, and they just go by. And I say, how many species are we? Because we can't all be humans. If we hear that and we walk away, we cannot all be humans. I'm sorry. So yeah, even if I don't have the money right now, I will commit and I'll do whatever it takes to raise the funds so that we can get you franchised. So we will commit to that as Compassiviste, and everybody listening to this can start, commenting and getting involved to see where they can contribute and where they can commit so we can raise this for Christmas.
Thank you.
Don't thank me. It's what you're doing. I should thank you for doing all of what you're doing. All I'm doing is bringing in the equivalent of a designer person in today's market. So I'm not doing anything. You're doing everything. I'm just here, trying to support where we can. Before lastly, how do people get in touch with you? So people listening here, they want to get in touch with Carley. They want to get on your program. They want to use automation. They want to change their lives. Where do they come? Do they email you? Do they go on social media? Give me all of it.
Absolutely. So we're on all the socials as successpositive.guru. Our website is successpositive.guru. And you can email us at answers@successpositive.guru. I did have a message for your listeners that are struggling right now, if you don't mind.
That was going
I
to be my
recently,
next. That was going to be my last question. I said before last because the last question was, "What is your message to the audience? What do they take from this?"
I recently lost my daughter to her disability, and that brings this important message for people that are struggling, because she was also struggling. If you are under 30 years old, hang on. It gets better. If you are struggling in your 20s, I promise you, when you get to 30, life gets easier. Doesn't matter why, it just does. If you are on the struggle bus, I totally understand. I was on the struggle bus. If you're on the struggle bus, get off. I have figured out the way to get off and become more productive. And if I did all of this for nothing, then what good was it, right? I learned these hard lessons so that you don't have to. Use my experience to get ahead.
I'm sorry for your loss.
We had her for a very long time. She was 27.
Thank you, Carley, for speaking on Compassiviste Dialogues, and thank you for your heart, your support, your vision, your dedication, everything you do. You inspire me so much to do better every day. To our audience, please subscribe to Compassiviste Dialogues channel, share this episode. Let's get Carley to be able to do all the things she wants to do, and follow her on social media, get in touch with her. All links to Carla and Success Positive are listed below. We're here to help change the world together. I'm Ali Horia. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.